Welcome to the Leaders Insights podcast. Today's episode, ESG reporting is now a CFO accountability issue, not a sustainability team problem. CFOs have been hearing about ESG for a decade. What's actually different in 2026 that makes this a career risk issue rather than a compliance checkbox?
The enforcement environment changed. The EU's CSRD is now pulling in non-European companies with significant EU revenue, and the SEC's climate disclosure rules survived the legal challenges that were still running in 2025. So you have binding, auditable requirements with financial penalties attached. That is a different world from writing a sustainability report that your communications team polished.
Walk me through what auditable actually means in practice for a CFO who hasn't been close to this.
It means your Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions data goes through the same limited assurance process as your financial statements, and in some jurisdictions, you're already moving toward reasonable assurance, which is the full audit standard. If your underlying data is weak, your auditor flags a material weakness. Siemens and Schneider Electric both had to rebuild their internal controls around energy consumption data because the granularity required for CSRD reporting was simply not there in their legacy systems. That's a controls problem, not a communications problem.
Some CFOs would say their sustainability team owns that data. What's wrong with that position?
The sustainability team doesn't own the balance sheet risk that flows from it. If you misreport emissions and a regulator finds a material discrepancy, the fine lands on the legal entity. If your disclosed transition plan is inconsistent with your actual capital expenditure, institutional investors, and BlackRock has been explicit about this in their 2026 proxy guidance, will vote against director re-election. The CFO who said "that's not my department" is now sitting in front of a board explaining a governance failure.
What about the cost of capital angle? Is there real evidence that poor ESG disclosure is moving a company's borrowing costs?
Yes, and it's no longer marginal. Bloomberg data, and I'd flag this is vendor research, so take the precision with some caution, showed in early 2026 that investment-grade issuers with weak or incomplete climate disclosures are paying a spread premium of roughly 15 to 25 basis points on green-labeled bonds compared to peers with verified data. For a company doing $1 billion issuance, that's real money. Ørsted and Iberdrola have essentially commoditized credible disclosure as a funding advantage. Their competitors who delayed are now catching up at higher cost.
If a CFO is listening to this and recognizes they're behind, what's the single most important move they make in the next 90 days?
Get your Scope 1 and Scope 2 data into the same internal control framework as your financial data. Assign ownership, set materiality thresholds, and bring your internal audit function in now rather than after your external auditor raises a flag. Everything else, the narrative, the targets, the supply chain data, comes later. But if the foundation is soft, none of the rest holds up under scrutiny.
Concrete, actionable, and overdue for most organizations. Thanks for the directness. To go further, Leaders Insights offers strategic training programs, diagnostic tools, and an executive self-assessment designed for CMOs, CDOs, CFOs, and leaders aiming for board-level performance. Explore everything at mba-training.com. Thank you for listening to the Leaders Insights podcast. See you tomorrow for another episode.